As we know in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that people who are possessed of demoniac natures, of course in the scriptures it is sometimes said by Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas that there are only two types of people in this world, the devotee and the demons. That is, for a lot of people, quite a black and white description or explanation. And anyhow, here we have a very, I wouldn't call it wonderful, but in that sense, but we have a very good description of someone who's possessed of this demoniac mentality and indeed is causing not only disturbances on the planet but also disturbances throughout the entire universe. Very powerful individual. It's not that these particular demons are necessarily cowards in one sense, that they can only fight lesser people. But as you can see, it's like Kamsa, isn't it? He was actually quite a powerful individual. He wasn't like some deformed wimp who was walking around picking on people who he knew he could only beat up or something. Everybody was actually scared of him. Everybody, like these demons here, everybody was actually afraid of them. As we know, Kamsa was unhesitatingly prepared to murder a child or children. Again, not because he wasn't capable of doing anything more powerful, it's just that these individuals are possessed with such a demoniac mentality, such a terrible fallen state of consciousness that they would be prepared to kill women, children, cause untold misery and misfortune and pain and suffering to any living entity, regardless, as long as at the end of the day they get some pleasure out of these activities. We see in these descriptions that their whole program for life is basically just to completely and utterly destroy anything that is good and auspicious in this world. Of course, we could observe and look at the difference between these demons. Of course, today we say that there are lots of Hiranyakashipus everywhere. Of course, probably not as big as powerful as this one. And one could observe, or at least it seems that the difference between these demons and the modern demons is that it appears that these demons actually knew who Krishna was. Whether that makes things worse, I guess it doesn't make it any better. That they were actually directly adverse to Lord Vishnu, specifically. Like they knew, like Kamsa, for example, he knew who Krishna was. Right? These demons here, again, appear they know who Krishna was, but specifically, they're instructing their followers to go out and actually destroy anything that's related to God, to destroy anything that's related to the worship of Lord Vishnu. Whereas, of course, they were doing it, I guess to call it knowledge is generous, but it seems that they're doing it in knowledge, specifically desecrating anything spiritual or auspicious in this world. Of course, what is auspicious and what is inauspicious. This word auspiciousness generally means, like for example, if sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we're weighing up the good points and the bad points, and then particular scenario or situation, we look, oh, here's all the good ones. There's a few bad ones, but it's looking pretty good, so we'll go for it. Or if it's all too much bad, too much on the other side, then we'll drop it. But auspiciousness means that there's no bad points about it. It's all auspicious. It can only do good to oneself and to all others involved, included also. So the holy name of Lord Krishna, Krishna's prasadam, Lord Krishna, devotional service, the devotees, the literatures, the Sankirtan, all the activities, all these things are actually auspicious because they're not part of this material world. Srila Prabhupada does mention in his purports to the Bhagavad Gita that anything we think is auspicious or inauspicious is just simply a mental concoction in this world, because there's actually nothing really very auspicious. And the only thing that is auspicious, or the only activities that are auspicious, is activities in Krishna consciousness. The example is often given of the sweet rice. You know, you have a really nice, ecstatic cup of sweet rice, and then someone comes along and puts a couple of pinches of sand inside. And although it may be a small amount, the whole thing becomes spoiled. This is the another ideology in the consciousness of the demons, isn't it? We can make something. This is a materialistic outlook on life. We can make this miserable world a great place. God says, Dukkha layara sashvatam. But we are more powerful than God, you see, so we can make it Sukha layara sashvatam. Of course, it's never going to happen. It hasn't happened in the past. It's not going to happen now. And it is very unlikely that it will be happening in the future, because Krishna says it's Dukkha layara. This is their idea. Let's make a place which is riddled with birth, disease, old age and death, and make a plan to stay in that situation permanently. Isn't it? This is not very intelligent. That we'll make a big plan, and as Srila Prabhupada often mentions that the less intelligent people try to adjust, isn't it? They try to adjust the material situation to make it better, but you can't change the nature of something just by moving it around. Its nature is that which is inherent in its constitution or its makeup. It's like the sun, its constitution is heat and light. It doesn't matter what part of the universe it moves to, it will remain the same nature. So the nature of this material world is binding. And Krishna says it is very clearly, I don't know, I stand to be corrected, but I've never really read or heard anywhere where His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says, or Lord Krishna says, that this material world is a really great place to hang about in, or to be in. But again, demoniac mentality is so, averse to this. It's so different that not only are they making plans to stay in a miserable place permanently, but they're also prepared to kill anything and anyone to do it. So it's very strange, isn't it? One thinks about what their mentality must be like. And really the only explanation, broadly speaking, is that they are, of course, in ignorance. This fall down into ignorance, Srila Prabhupada describes, is due to a lack of knowledge. Fall down is due to actually a lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge and usually a lack of discipline. Discipline means that I mean, disciple means discipline, isn't it? We surrender to be disciplined in order to achieve the highest status of life. Sometimes people argue with us, isn't it? Well, at least they argue with me. I don't know about everybody. Why stick to one path? Why be a part of a religion, an institution that tells you how to dress, what to eat, what to do, how to live? Why don't you be more liberal? Then you become really liberated. But these people actually, obviously, when they speak like this, have no real knowledge of what the goal of life is or how to achieve it. And the idea is like, if you were driving up the road, if you wanted to get from here to, I don't know, Manchester or something, then the idea is that you have to stick to this particular road. You have to stick to this particular set of asphalt, this particular line of asphalt, and you follow the directions, stop signs, the lights, directive signs. And the idea is that this path is actually meant to get you to your destination safely, effectively, quickly. Right? One could argue, well, why follow the rules? Let's just, stop at the green light and drive through the red, and why stick to the road? Let's just cut off and, drive across the fields. And of course, these activities are illegal and dangerous. And the discipline means, having knowledge means really to have the discipline to do what we know we should be doing. Sticking to the proper course of action. And in order to be able to stick to the proper course of action, obviously the first thing one should need to know is, what is the proper course of action? It's difficult to stick to something that you don't know about. Again, the demoniac mentality, Srila Prabhupada says, they don't know what should be done. They don't know what shouldn't be done. Materialistic life. Don't know what to do, don't know what not to do. Whole material world, simply a collection of excuses on how to forget Krishna. How to forget not what to do. But those who have the good fortune of coming into contact with somebody who does know what to do, one should become disciplined enough, disciple, to follow the correct activities for human life. Sometimes when people ask us about what is this Vedic literature, Srila Prabhupada also gives this example. Many of Srila Prabhupada's examples and analogies are, at first glance or first contemplation, seem to be outwardly extremely simple. But they are, of course, extremely profound if one really meditates on what he's trying to teach us. And the idea behind the Vedic literature is offered is that Srila Prabhupada mentions if you go to a store and you purchase a particular appliance, then with that appliance you will get a manual in the box which tells you what to do with it, right? Which buttons to press and, what to do if it goes wrong and what this particular function is and what this part does, etc. So the Vedic literature is a body of knowledge given by the Lord to humanity to tell us how it works. Right? Everything is in there, right? You've got Ayurveda, architecture, warfare, politics, dancing, cooking, everything's there. And there it's mentioned that this human form of life is specifically given to the living entity to achieve self-realization. Specifically given. Just like a washing machine, you would expect is specifically offered, right, to this world so people can wash their clothes, and it's not really meant. It's specific purpose. So specifically this human body, not, well, maybe if you feel like it, or it's, outside sense gratification and material life, it could be useful for self-realization as well. But for the living entity who is subject to accepting all types of different bodies, right? This form of body, this particular bag of old bones, is given to us specifically for self-realization. And then if we don't use it for that, then really it's illegal usage, isn't it? And that means karma. Illegal use. So, what is that process? The correct knowledge, the correct path. The Lord very clearly mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that this process is called yajna. In fact, yes, this human form of life is meant for yajna. Yajna is another name for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada always translates this as sacrifice, making sacrifices. People in the material world are very quick to make sacrifices for themselves, right? For their own self-interest, as we've seen the demons, those who are possessed of a great demonic mentality will practically do anything unspeakable. Nothing is too much for these people to achieve this end. And of course then there are people who we consider innocent, right? The demoniac, the innocent, and the devotees are generally the three divisions of mentalities. They're also, unfortunately, under the influence of ignorance. It means they have no real knowledge of what this human life is for. And their whole endeavor is, again, to become happy in a place where happiness doesn't exist. They'll perform all sorts of yajnas to try and become happy. You can start by, aggrandizing yourself, performing great austerities for yourself. Then you can, usually the family, then the community, then the nation, then even the world, isn't it? You can become a great philanthropist. This is why people become famous. They perform great material yajnas, great material sacrifices, and become famous, like Mother Teresa and Gandhi and these. But it's like it's pointed out in the scriptures, the results of these sacrifices are never very auspicious, neither are they permanent, and they give any real lasting benefit. Just like, for example, again, the example of Gandhi, he was such a personality, very revered individual, on the material platform. Everywhere you go in India, there's an MG road, right? Everywhere you go. Or at least. So Gandhi performed many great austerities, isn't it? He was famous for his penances. But what was the end result of his penances? That he was murdered. He was murdered by the very same people who he was trying to liberate. So for him, it was not too auspicious. The result was not that great. Not much gratitude there, right? Not much reciprocation. Oh, thanks, mate. And when one is engaged in yajna for Lord Krishna, then that becomes liberating. What does it mean to perform a yajna for Vishnu? to perform a sacrifice. Basically, it means that we do things for his satisfaction. Whatever one's doing, whatever one's ashram may be, it should all be done really for the satisfaction of Krishna. And it is this performance of yajna, of course in the Bhagavad Gita, I believe in the ninth chapter, the most confidential knowledge, I believe, part of the most confidential knowledge, Krishna speaks about these things. That yajna is the secret to happiness. That all good things, anything auspicious, is born out of yajna. As it's being mentioned here, even so powerful, even the demigods benefit. As you see in this narration, they're getting a bit worried. Because this demon is specifically instructing his followers to destroy anything yajnic and brahminical. And even the demigods were losing out, so it's mentioned here, they came down to earth and said, let's see what's going on. But this is everybody's idea. We'll do what we do to become happy. But it's very clearly mentioned that real happiness is produced from yajna. All things in life, all good things in life, come from performance of yajna. Regardless, and whenever there's no yajna, Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda, Jai Jai Shri Sitaram Lakshmana Man Shri Shri Ronita Ki Jai. And where there is no yajna to Lord Vishnu, then things ultimately after some time stop working out. Srila Prabhupada mentions that the purpose, the result of performing these yajnas, that one will become peaceful and happy in this life, and it will prepare us for elevation to the spiritual world. All in this one very life. And of course, there are many, many different types of yajnas prescribed in the literatures. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna lists many different types of yajna. But needless to say, we know what the supreme yajna is. Srila Prabhupada uses the words that Brahminical culture can be revived by chanting Hare Krishna. There is very clear descriptions and information describing how simply by chanting Hare Krishna one will receive the results of all other types of yajnas, austerities, sacrifices. Krishna in his holy name are none different. Krishna is the supreme source of everything, so therefore everything is born of the holy name. There's no difference. There's absolutely no difference. And specifically Harinam Sankirtan Yajna, there is, unfortunately I couldn't find it, but Shiva Ramswami was giving class and he was reading from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. This is many, many years ago. And he was reading this one section which was being discussed about the potency of the holy name. And he was discussing how the actual yajna is Sankirtan Yajna, which means going on Harinam, congregational chanting. And there's this one particular verse describing how powerful the holy name is, especially when chanted congregationally, publicly. And Maharaj, again, unfortunately it's been so many years, I can't remember how he did it, but he did explain, he worked out from this verse which gave a comparison of the effect of the holy name under different circumstances. That simply by going out on Harinam, if you're chanting 16 rounds every day, by going out on Harinam for 8 hours a year, just 8 hours a year, you can actually double the potency of your chanting. I know I've got the tape, but I can't for the life of me figure out which verse is speaking, so if anybody can find it. If you're just chanting 16 rounds every day by going on Hari Nam for 8 hours a year, you double the potency, you double the effectiveness, you double your yajna performance. My Guru Maharaj would tell me when they first joined, this was in New York. Of course, in them days they didn't have even Mangalati. I think everybody used to get up at 7 or 8 o'clock or something. And but anyway, they were going on Hari Nam for like 8 hours a day. You just imagine. 8 hours a day. You know. And constantly absorbed in studying these books because they were transcribing them, printing them, writing about them, distributing them. So this is the process. Actually, other places in the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada specifically meant that the religion for this day and age is studying and reading the Bhagavatam and chanting Hare Krishna. Why? Well, also as well that I've heard Srila Prabhupada mention on lecture tape. I mentioned this before, but it's just so important for us, really. That there are many different types of devotional service, the 9 different processes. But Srila Prabhupada mentions specifically in Kali Yuga, in this day and age, without hearing and chanting, none of the others will actually be effective. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada very clearly mentions that fall down comes due to a lack of knowledge. So if we don't have this knowledge, alright, then what's going to happen? Right? We're going to end up eventually, gradually. Isn't it what did Srila Prabhupada say? If you don't read my books, you'll gradually. Yeah. Not everywhere actually in the Gita, Krishna says, by this knowledge, this will happen. By knowledge, one who understands, the one who has knowledge and understands the science of Krishna can become a guru, right? It's all about the knowledge. It's all about having the knowledge. Because if we don't have the knowledge, we don't know, how can we act? Then obviously we're not going to get liberated, is it? So chanting Hare Krishna, studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, this is actually the Dharma. This is actually the religion for Kali Yuga. I guess it's been the religion since time immemorial. Well, in fact, this is the eternal religion, isn't it? Again, this is the how many times have people complained or try to argue that these are just old books, isn't it? We need modern. We have to have everything modern. But modern simply is a word which refers to that particular body of knowledge or happenings that exist outside of Vedic culture. Modern has always existed, right? Anything outside of real Vedic knowledge we call modern. And these teachings refer to a spiritual science that is not affected by age or time. It's an eternal truth. So how can they be old, right? They think everything's old because they're growing old. But again, they don't understand that age, time, doesn't affect the soul. So that's what it's all about. It's all about chanting Hare Krishna as much as possible. And reading these books, trying to absorb the knowledge. I'm not a very good example, unfortunately. And then, as Srila Prabhupada would say, find some business for Krishna. Hear and chant and then go out and find some business for Krishna. It doesn't have to be anything complicated or exuberant. There's one narration, one pastime I was reading. Was I hearing it? Srila Prabhupada and the devotees, they're in India and they're observing this lady. She takes a load of water every day. Holy water to bathe the deity. And Srila Prabhupada said, for this service, she will go back to Godhead. Just fetching water. Isn't it what does Krishna say? Patram, Pushpam, Phalam. So yeah. If one offers me a little fruit, some water, leaves with devotion, he will accept it. So we shouldn't doubt it, should we really? How many people again come, I have faith in Lord Krishna. What does to have faith in the Lord means to have faith in what he's saying to you. Just has to be genuine, just has to be non-whimsical. Has to be sincere. The yagya, it's just a simple yagya of taking water every day, 100 yards or something for the deity. Krishna is very happy. Not difficult, really. In theory, maybe it's easy, but sometimes practicality. So this is Prabhupada's program for the devotees. Try to avoid this demoniac mentality by always keeping yourself in the mode of goodness. Isn't it even, we see in Srila Prabhupada's final pastimes, he's talking about the same thing, isn't it? Rise early, internal, external cleanliness, always engage in hearing and chanting. In this way we keep ourselves on the side of goodness, on the side of knowledge, on the side of peacefulness and happiness in this world, and an eternal life with Krishna in the next. What more could you ask for? And all these things are readily available to us. Srila Prabhupada says, only by good fortune one comes to Krishna consciousness. Those devotees in Krishna consciousness are extremely fortunate. And those who are not in Krishna consciousness are not, unfortunately, so fortunate. So our business is to remain fortunate by always chanting the holy name of the Lord, trying to understand the philosophy. Philosophy means able to understand the truth. And then serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the spiritual master by going out and also endeavoring to make other people fortunate. Hare Krishna. Thus ends my speculation on this. If anyone has any points or comments, slow today, I've got a bit of a stinker. So. Any points or comments? Srinivas, Prabhu. Huh? Namruchi. Yes. Vaishnav Seva Harinam. Yeah, Krishna doesn't sort of approve of you trying to be his devotee and at the same time ignoring, or even worse, criticizing the devotees. In the Gaudiya mat, I believe that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, one of his criteria for staying in the mat was that you had to do 5 things for a devotee every day. Even if it was like opening a door, giving some prasad. This is actually, all these things seem very simple, but they're very important. It's one of the principles, isn't it, of devotional relationship, offering and receiving prasadam. And Srila Prabhupada actually mentions there, it's the Nectar, the Upadeshamrita, that in order to maintain one's devotional attitude, one should accept prasad from the devotee. We should honor it immediately. So if you have taste for the holy name, and the taste for being in knowledge, and the taste for doing the simple things with devotion, then we stand a very good chance. Any other points or comments or questions?